Good Lord, what's happening in the...
D&D from A to Z, spells for you and spells for me. We will see what we will see today. Locals galore and monsters roar, nerds adore forevermore. Let's explore some ancient lore. Hey, hey. Hello, my name is Jordan Maywood and I am the Alphabetical DM. Let me pour forth from my mind the meager knowledge I have of role-playing games such as please and thank you. Very kind of you. One thing I should say on that note of the meagerness of the knowledge that I have is that just about everything I say will be an opinion. So please, be aware of that fact. Thank you. And you must be if you're listening to this because you understand the words that I am saying, right? Correct. I will say that I would love to also hear your opinions. So, should you have differing or similar ones, or anywhere in between, please leave them down in the Underdark below. I would love to hear you. Let's move on to today's main subject. D&D from A to... Wrong button I pushed. Yes, actor. Okay, so, if you are following along, this is episode... where I'm looking to find it. 4, I do believe. My thought is intervening episodes will be devoted to things such as feats, where the main subject will be something that I can have multiple episodes of. For example, as there are many feats, we'll start at number 1, alphabetically, actor, and then sort of move throughout as we come to episodes where I'm doing a multiple of. So I think we did class first, we did feats, and then in between we did sort of episodes devoted to subjects that are a little more one-offs, if you prefer. Okay, so feats, first and foremost. They are things that you can give your characters. I like to give one at first level. I think it adds a little flavor at the beginning, which is always nice. And then there are also options instead of skill advancements. So there's many ways you can do it. Some people do it differently. The way I like to do it is when you have your ability score improvement, you can do one... you could go that route where you can add to your ability scores, or you can choose a feat. Feats, depending on how you play, I think give more in the way of role play, kind of, flavor to your character, as opposed to just adding some more numbers on a page. So that's one reason I like them. This one I have actually used as a character. I was a gnome bard, and this one came in handy because my charisma score was, I think it was 17, so to get that one extra mark up to 18 means you're going to have some more modifiers, which is nice, and then all this cool stuff below. So let's see, advantage on deception, performance. As a bard, having advantage on performance, pretty handy. I was a accordion playing redheaded gnome named Weird Al. So that was a handful when trying to pass yourself off as a different person. Okay, you can mimic speech. I don't know if I think maybe I used this once. It didn't come up very often. You can mimic the speech of another person or the sounds made by other creatures. Have to hear them for 1 minute. And people can sort of try to figure out if it's real. You know what I like to hear from anyone listening to this, should such a person be existing, what are interesting ways this can be used? Like, there's sort of the one I always think of is you listen to the speech of the boss character, the big bad guy, and then sort of from behind a door or around a corner or something, you use that speech on some of his minions and give them orders. I guess that's one thing you could do, but maybe there's more sort of interesting ways. That's sort of a default way. I'm looking for cool ways this could be used. So that is that. The thing about episodes such as these, the Feats ones, the main subject gonna be short. Hey, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Let's move on to monster, quote unquote, in this case. It's a dragon. Yeah, monster, if you're unfamiliar with D&D, can encompass things that are not monstrous, let's say. So, for example, this is a humanoid, any race. So it could be human, meh, could be elf, dwarf, could be anything. An acolyte. Acolytes are junior members of the clergy, usually answerable to a priest. They perform a variety of functions in a temple and are granted minor spellcasting power by their deities. So, should you be playing a cleric, there's probably the assumption that at one time or another you were an acolyte, just as an example. These are fun. What's the CR? Not that I pay too much attention to CR ratings, so a quarter, or 1/4. The reason I like this is because they're very low level. They're not too difficult for a standard low level party to defeat, but they're an interesting way to introduce spellcasting to a party. If they're used to fighting things like, I don't know, like rats or wolves or kobolds or things that don't often have spellcasting, to suddenly come across these even low level things that have spellcasting abilities, which it's not a lot. Sacred Flames kind of, they have a few things, but if it's an introduction and the first time that your characters have come across spellcasters, they're going to be a little, oh shit, these guys are not just your average Joe blows, they're Joe blowing fireballs at you, huh? Let's see what we got here. Yeah, see, they can look cool. Like, this doesn't really look like an acolyte to me. Yeah, maybe this a little bit more. Just sort of figuring her stuff out, getting in there, shooting some spells off. Rating wise, I'm not going to go high on an acolyte. There's probably cool things you can flavor it with other than this. Like, they don't even give it a picture. This is sort of just a default picture. So rating wise, I'll go like a 2.9, just under a 3. Yeah. But for that low level first encounter with magic, possible some coolness there. Moving on to spells. Alarming, this one. You set an alarm against unwanted intrusion. Choose a door, a window, or an area within range that is no larger than 20-foot cube. Pretty big door. Till the spell ends, an alarm alerts whenever a tiny or larger creature touches or enters the warded area. When you cast the spell, you can designate creatures that won't set off the alarm, which is interesting. So could I say, let through sexy ladies? Oh, God. You also choose whether the alarm is mental or audible, which is interesting if you are a sneaky type who wants to be able to know something is entering the room you have alarmed against, and be able to pop up and scare the bejesus out of them. So that's kind of cool. Mental alarm pings within your mind. Oh, 1 mile. Huh. So that's other than just in the case of sleeping. You could say enter a tomb and say if you think you're being followed, okay, which is not impossible in a D&D campaign. If someone's following you, you could enter a tomb and then set it at the door of the tomb to know that. Here's an interesting question. Could you set because you can choose? This probably wouldn't work. Designated creatures. Okay, let me throw this at you. You DMs out there. Characters say, I want this alarm to go off when anyone passes this door who has been following me. That's an interesting question. I don't know if I would allow that or not. Probably would, because it's a cool idea, and there's that little fear of, yeah, they're following me, and I think they are, but that doesn't mean I can necessarily stop them. So that's kind of cool. Moving on to audible sound, bell 10 seconds, 60 feet, first level. Oh, ritual. I like a ritual spell. I know in a campaign, I'm pretty sure I or someone in the party has used this, so kind of a cool one, and I like it rating wise. Whew. See, I probably would have gone lower. I probably would have gone a 2 or a 3, but now that I have that idea in my head, I'm going to go 3 or a 4. Convoluted rating, I know.
Arrived at your destination.
That's how I roll. Speaking of rolling, as you do in a car to destinations, let's talk location. Abbey. Yes, I did warn in last episode there's going to be a few Abbeys here because we're going in alphabetical order, and ABB is at the top a little bit. The Abbey, at least this one has a little bit more to it, I think. Cavern, deity Selune. Okay. Abbey dedicated to the goddess Selune, which is like the moon goddess. Abbey lay underground, vast natural cavern. That's pretty cool. We got some gap, mind the gap. A little more history here compared to the other ones. Pilgrims. Yeah, so this one's a little more fleshed out. And gargoyles. Ooh, I like that. Okay, so rating wise for the Abbey of Tharynd. This is better than the last one, so we'll go 3.1. Let's see where it is. I guess it's somewhere near the Shining Sea. See, these maps, I just sort of Google image it, and then we assume that it's in here somewhere, I guess. Hey, why not? Alright, moving on to a scenario. So, I should make that shorter by a little bit. So if you're unfamiliar, what I do in the scenario section of this thing is take the monster spell and location and jam them into one hopefully cohesive little tidbit that you can use in your campaign, you can use in your backstory, you can use for inspiration perhaps. I'm calling this one Teen Wolf. Yeah, because of Selune, the moon. An acolyte at the Abbey. Oh, that's kind of interesting that they went hand in hand. An acolyte and an abbey. I like it. The acolyte at the Abbey of Tharynd uses the alarm spell so that late at night, when he is alone in his room, when that special mood strikes him, he can, perform rituals in the hopes that he can keep his lycanthropy at bay, as the Abbey has a temple to Selune, the mood goddess, who's of course intertwined with lycanthropes. Yes, so this is an acolyte who has been obviously bitten by a werewolf, so he was trying to keep it secret, and I suppose in a temple dedicated to a moon-related goddess is as good a place as any. And you probably thought I was going somewhere else with that whole thing, but get your minds out of the gutter. Teen Wolf. Yes. Okay, so for the Abbey, we'll give a rating of... Yeah, these Abbeys aren't blowing me away. I think we do have one later that's better, so I'll save my higher ratings for that. I'm going to go 2.93769 or so, somewhere in that neighborhood. The movie Teen Wolf, I'm going to give a solid 4. If you watch it on a Sunday in the right mood, maybe a 4.5. Lovely. Moving on to questions and perhaps answers. Once again, viewer, in quotes, as I'm taking these from Facebook D&D related groups, until such time as you watching this can start leaving questions in the Underdark down below, and then I will pull from there. Thank you very much for anyone who does that. Very much appreciated. So the gist of this one is a DM had a paladin embed a crystal into a weapon. I believe it was a sword or a greatsword. And they wanted to come up with an idea for what sort of powers this could grant, which I love stuff like that. I love players asking if they can do stuff like that, and then me taking the time to come up with things that their sort of actions will cause to happen within the world, within things on their person, just anything of that ilk. I'm very much a fan of. So as soon as they said crystal, it made me think of the shatter spell, which I'll just bring up here and you can have a look at, because it does extra damage to crystal. So if you have a weapon that has a crystal in it, I don't think I mean, it's dumb that I like to have logic such as this involved with coming up with magical items with a magic sword. Imbuing it with some sort of logic is a strange thing, but it's also, I think it helps with making a world that is magical somehow feel more real and pulling you in more. So why not do that extra little effort to try to make things sense? So my thought here is use that spell, which is only a 2nd level, so it's not too high. And when they crit with that weapon, it triggers that spell. So you're using mechanics that already exist and just mashing them together. Because it's a 2nd level spell, and this girl, I think, mentioned... No, she didn't, but someone else in the comments gave this idea, which I thought was smart, and I've done this for weapons as well, is have a weapon that, as your character levels, the weapon also has things that level. So the spell is 3d8 thunder damage. So this person was level... I forget when your paladin takes his orders. Is it 2 or 3? Anyways, lower level. So my thought is to start the spell off at 1d8, and then as the character levels, you can add d8, perhaps following this rule. You know, that's just a thought. Yeah, so there you go. Please, Underdark below, for your questions. Would love to hear from you about those things there. End. Speaking of end,
it's done.
It sure is, folks. That's another one. Another one bites the dust. I hope you are enjoying. I very much am. I will say that this and every episode, I will mention at the top that should we ever one day reach that level where the amount of views and viewers means that this channel makes money, I will be donating half the proceeds to takethis.org. In the meantime, what I've decided to do is that for every 100 subscribers that I get, I will personally be donating $10 to the aforementioned takethis.org, a terrific organization that focuses on mental health, of which I've had my battles in the past, as well as gaming, which, hey, that's what we're all here for. I mean, here in the sense of talking of D&D on a YouTube channel. Oh, God. Other things in the Underdark below are links to, various social medias and such. Basically, what I would not mind from you, the viewer, is to be interactive with questions, and I will use those in future episodes. And as much as I hate asking for likes and subscribes, it does help to grow the channel, and also gives a little to this organization. So hey, what's the worst that could happen? Famous last words, am I right? No, famous last words are, as I end this in every episode, I'm looking at the button. Where's the button to turn this off so I'm ready? It's nice to be nice to the nice.